Hello and welcome, ladies. Welcome, Alyssa Pajoli. Alyssa, I'm really excited to have you here today. Ladies, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Alyssa. She is a life, leadership, and connections coach. She helps empower women to lead a phenomenal life. Alyssa, before we even get into this interview, I would love to just ask you a little bit about who you are and the work that you're doing in the world.
Yes, absolutely. So, a little bit about me. I spent 10 years in corporate fitness and management, miserable, feeling like I needed to do the daily grind of what societal expectations taught me. Went to college, got a job. Didn't like the job, but I still did it because it was a consistent paycheck until I started to discover the massive need and focus and support around helping middle-aged women, especially, to kind of have the accountability to curate their and re-identify themselves, whether they're late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, or early 50s. So got out of corporate, started my own coaching practice, and now I kind of have a twofold. Part of my practice is helping, obviously, people re-identify, enhance their life, leadership, values, and emotional intelligence so that they can live unapologetically. And then the other part of my practice is inspiring and empowering coaches and or other entrepreneurs to step into that light and space and work for themselves. So
I love it.
Very rewarding.
I love it. I wish I had had the gusto to actually chase after my dream much earlier. I love that you saw it and went after helping, really supporting women, supporting people in creating the life that they're looking for. So I want to tee into this just so you can know a little my story. I too, right? That's why I'm hosting this event. I have struggled most of my life with understanding who I am and really having or feeling that power to go after what I want as I am. So I love you mentioned, and I just want to kind of tie in or start this whole conversation off. You mentioned the word emotional intelligence. Can you share a little bit about what that means?
Yes. So also we live in a world where everything's focused on IQ. But what we're finding and seeing, especially with the more digital and fast-paced world comes, emotional intelligence is your ability to become aware of what it is you're experiencing in yourself and others while being able to effectively articulate and regulate through that situation and scenario. For children, I kind of break it down to being like, it's the ability to feel your feelings while being able to listen and also understand someone else's feelings and words, and to be able to identify it, understand it, regulate, and just be able to stay respectful to it. I think when I think of EQ, I think of connectedness and respectfulness. And that is something we need more of in today's society, I believe.
Absolutely.
I'm biased.
No, absolutely. And I think, as women, and I know a lot of our listeners, we spend so much of our life caring for other people, caring for children. You meant like you've left your career and pursued your passion. A lot of us are still maybe in a career or wanting to pursue the passion. And we're so used, maybe even on autopilot of just living life a certain way and maybe not even paying attention to other people's emotions. So could you give us maybe even some tips of how we would begin to live from a place of empowerment inside of emotional intelligence? Or is there another word? Like, could I call emotional intelligence something else? Because it seems like so big. Like, is there another word that we could call it?
It does. And I think also another hiccup when it comes to EQ, emotional intelligence is either referred to as EQ or EI. Is the lack of emotional literacy that we have. I feel one of the most effective things you can do for yourself and your family is to have an emotions wheel up in your house or on your desk where it shows you the primary, secondary, and tertiary, because a lot of times we misinterpret. We're not educated and we don't spend enough time in our feelings to understand what the hell it is we're even feeling. Like, Anxiety and excitement are very similar, but they reside in the body, and we have different signals that are very different. But if we're not taught to, like, a good word is, as you say, as you bring that up, is awareness, right? I truly believe that in order to be emotionally intelligent, you have to be aware and detached. And that it goes into the mindfulness practice of like surrendering and like detached and going to like accept. But really, yeah, emotional intelligence, whether it's you with your child, with your spouse, with your associate, it is the awareness to be able to be willing to see and feel and understand what is going on in both worlds, and being able to believe that it has nothing to do with you. And it's like, I'm willing to feel sorry with you, or I'm willing to feel frustrated with you, versus I feel sorry for you, or I feel sorry at you or at this. So yeah, I
Yeah, well,
think
even
that's the best way I would describe it.
as you're talking, I think a lot of us, we almost and then internalize it, and it becomes like a shame or a guilt. And I don't know if this is just a mommy thing, or if it's a woman thing, or if it's a human thing. But I love how you're saying this idea of detaching from what's happening. So, because I know at least maybe this is only my story, but I had a habit my whole life of taking on, like there wasn't a detach.
Yeah.
It was like, this is, and then it would leave me with like some stinking thinking.
Yo. And I believe also, as a parent, as a leader or a boss, it's easy to think, it's easy to kind of take on that responsibility. So we tease ourselves with we're being responsible because we're providers, or we're caregivers, or this or that, when really, no, the only thing you are responsible for is holding your mindset, your core values, your integrity, your advocacy, and what enables you to be your best badass self, who's true to you, and also then teaching other people how to love, honor, respect, and support that version of you.
Okay, if that's not a quote like on your website, it needs to be. Like, that is good. We have to rewind, like tie it up. Okay, well, you just teed it up for me. So you used the word core value, and this is something I've struggled with, but it's also something I see a lot of people don't even know, like maybe, how do I identify my core values? Like, what would you say to that? Maybe what is a core value, and how would we start to identify what is our core value?
Yeah, Brene Brown is actually who slapped me in the face with the whole understanding and education around core values, because I consider myself a pretty strong advocate and like strong personality, that I know what my morals and ethics are, and I'm going to execute them. But what I find interesting is a lot of people that I work with have more than 3 or 4 core values, and you cannot have more than 2 to 3 core values, because if you have more than 3 values that are important to you, that you think that is going to like work, what you have is an organized paper of like feel good words. So the way I think of core values, right, is a core value you want to have 2 or 3 of. And those are things that are so crystallized and concrete into who you are, how you show up, that they're just like a part of you. But the interesting thing about core values is that they also are tested and trial your secondary core values. So again, in Alyssa's emotional world, there's primary, secondary, tertiary. Hell, in core values, there are 2. There's your core of like, this is who I am. I can't imagine being anything other than this and executing like this, because if I am not, I'm going against my own like moral, ethical, and space of integrity. But also knowing that because I have these core values and I'm honoring them, my secondary and tertiary will also then benefit from that. Does that make sense?
Yes. I know, did you lose me? No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. No, it does. It completely makes sense. And I love what you just said, that if you have more than those two or three, what you really have is a lot of fancy words. Like,
Oh, and it's beautiful. It's like beautifully articulated on paper, but then you're also sitting there with that paper of like beautiful words and thinking, how the hell am I going to execute this? And like, is this really who I am? And if it's not who you are, trying to execute that is going to be very overwhelming and take up a lot of your energetic bandwidth. And like, we only have so much energy.
yeah.
Like, go deeper, not wider.
Wow. Wow. So could you give some examples of, I mean, and I guess this would be different for every person, every human, but could you get some examples of what maybe would be that like a core value of this is who I am, versus something that might be on the outer, so we could just put some words to it?
Yeah. So an example for me is like my core value is health. Because if I do not take, and part of it is because come from corporate fitness, I'm a health promotions major. Like I have always been fascinated with mind, body, spirit, like nonetheless. So I know that if I'm not healthy, it again, it tests, it trials, and it goes into everything else I do. How and like authenticity or truth. Like honesty is very, very important to me. And I know that like I'm just honest. I'm an acquired taste. I'm very blunt and direct. Some people don't like it, but I know that if I'm not, it leads into me feeling dismissed, disrespected, resentful, unheard. Like it has this whole bandwidth of like bad crap that goes with it to where it's not useful. Um, but I will say an example that a lot of the listeners here may be able to resonate is one that Brene often references to is like, she used to think that being a good mom was one of her core values. But what she realized is that vulnerability is actually the core because in or like being a mom or provider, if that's a core value, that's not a core value, that's an identity. And that's just a way in which you show up. But being vulnerability comes with being okay sharing your emotions and expressing your fears and having hard conversations with your spouse or your team or your children. So like it's actually vulnerability as her core value because then it makes her show up in different areas. So I think core is a matter of what is gonna, if you execute blank, what will have the most positive impact on the other elements of your life? Like what can't you live without other than like the add-ons like wine and like healthy snack like goat cheese? Like there's other things obviously, but those are not my core.
Oh my goodness. So this is like, I love you. This is so helpful. And so I'm just in vulnerability. I will even share that. So I'm a mom. I'm actually a mom of a lot of kids and a few lot.
Okay.
But I never identified as a mom. Like I never identified as a mom, even though I was a mom. And I almost felt even some guilt about that. But what I'm even hearing like freedom of like, I am a mom, but that doesn't mean I have to like wear I'm a mom on my forehead. Like I can have other, gifts, dreams, desires than just mothering some amazing children. So awesome. Okay. Let's see. When we were talking prior to this interview, you had shared, and I wrote this down, how feelings and thoughts can keep us stuck. So I know I'm doing like a wild, like over here, right? But I want to leave values on the table for just a minute. That was so incredibly helpful. And I want to move over to this idea of stuckness. So I know one is that some women will identify and say, I am stuck. Right? Like I'm stuck and I've been stuck and I'm in a rut. And then there's others that maybe are like, I'm not stuck, even though their life maybe isn't
or they
moving.
don't know.
Or they don't, yeah. So I know I've been on both sides of that, but I want to tap into this conversation because when you mentioned how thoughts and feelings keep us stuck, it really hit me. And I've been really waiting to even ask you these questions of, how do our thoughts and feelings keep us stuck, and what can we do to like move out of that stuckness?
So, depending on what you read, which I love contradictory articles, you won't feel something without a thought, and you won't think something specific if you're not feeling something. So it's important to understand which way you naturally operate. Some people will be very heavy in their feelings and they'll be able to know what they're feeling. And then it'll be like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. Where did it come from? Who is it assigned to? What did I do that created this? What belief am I? And then they'll go to, what am I thinking that has created this feeling, right? If you're willing to go that far, that's a very like responsible thing to do that we're not naturally taught. But then there's also those people that are in their head. They're not really aware of what they're feeling, but they're just spinning and they're thinking and they're festering and there's all these thoughts. And so oftentimes the stuckness is not being able to tap into both of those sides. And I feel that writing it down and getting clear on answers is really an effective way. So if and I love exercises. So if you struggle to understand how you feel, the ruler method by Mark Brackett is fantastic. Ruler, recognize what is it that you're feeling, understand where is it coming from, what's the dealio with it, label it, get your emotional literacy up to date and like label that emotion so that you can express it and then regulate through it. So that's just like you don't have to write that down, but you could just like go through it mentally. For people who are more of a thought provoking, it's really about honing in on what is it I'm thinking right now? Is it true? Like, is there scientific truth that is going behind this really destructive or like insignificant thought that feels significant? How does it make me feel? If it's good or bad, if it's bad, what is the intention behind thinking that thought? Like a lot of us don't get that far and we'll be able to say, oh, it makes me feel like shit. Like, oh yeah, no, it keeps me stuck or it keeps me scared or this or that. And it's like, so what's the intention behind choosing to think that thought over and over? Because I feel like when we are in that autopilot, mundane way, a good way to know if you're stuck or not is the joy scale. Like, how joyful do you feel during the day? How often do you laugh? How light do you feel? What is your relationship to time? Is it like your greatest gift and you have all the time in the world because you live with like purposefulness and intention? Or are you just like scrambling to get shit done and you just think that you don't have enough of it because you're just trying to be really productive? So I forget the question.
Yeah, I almost went like right with you. I was right with you. Wow.
How do you know if you're
Yes.
stuck?
No.
How do you know if you're stuck? I think is like
you're
the
sharing
joy.
how your thoughts and feelings keep us stuck, right? That was so powerful. I was right with you. I've never actually heard of the ruler.
Mark Brackett is so lovely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I guess we both got stumped there. Like that was is there anything you want to add?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I feel the question is like, how do they get into each? And like also, so I'm reading the 11 Laws of Success by Raymond Hollingwell. And like, it's just ripping me open. So if you haven't read it or listened to it, do it, anyone. But he talks about the law of thinking, right? And then he also talks about law of attraction. And I think one of the misunderstood things that we do not fully embody is that you have a choice on what it is you think. And I talk this to coaches and working professionals about this all the time, is like, we don't really understand the gravity of what our beliefs are. And we don't acknowledge that we create our beliefs, because what a belief is it's a thought that you choose to think over and over and over. And that thought is going to take you down two paths. One, action. And if you're in relationships or human connection, you're going to approach that person. The other path of that thought is in inaction. You're not going to do anything, and you're going to avoid that person, whether you're feeling unsafe or disrespected or that. Based on whatever path you take is going to create a reality. And in that reality, your subconscious is going to create and validate. It's going to look for facts. It's going to look for data of being like, oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, you're right. Yep. And then that reality being like that becomes that belief. So then you're just like, oh, well, this is how it is, or this is my legacy. And it's like, you have a choice, right? We don't, for law of attraction, like, attraction is really thinking about the desire and understanding that we don't have desires without an expectation that it's going to happen. So I also don't feel like people who are raising families and like 10 to 15 years in their career, or like, we don't dream enough. We don't sit down and think about our desire. So what if you're watching this and I ask you, when was the last time you like wrote down your dreams or wrote down what you'd like to happen over the next year? Like, when was the last time you dreamed or created a vision board? And if the answer is less than 6 months, you get to sit down and get some dreaming and desires out, because you want that growth. You want those positive endorphins to be going to where, then you have the, and just the understanding and respect of, if you desire it, like, it means a part of you and the universe, like, it's able to be done. Like, the expectation is there. So then you just have to get into action and creating that, because it's already an opportunity and possibility. Otherwise you wouldn't desire it in the first place. I could talk all day, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Like, I can listen all day. I woke up this morning with the word possibilities on my heart. And I think what you're saying, like, so often, I don't know if it's the world or what, we lose sight of dreaming, or maybe we feel like we don't have permission to dream. So I love that you just literally gave like, here's permission, not only dream, but like act like, not only like that you have permission to dream, but go dream. Like,
I want you to. Yes, I want you to. The reason emotional intelligence is also in such a crisis and demand right now is because of the way the world is changing. We are so fast paced, we are so digital, and we are so distracted. And where digitalness can and should bring connection, like positive things like you're doing right here, the average individual does not experience it. Like, if you read any study on how many hours children should get on an iPad or screen, it's because it is a leading cause of loneliness and depression, and we don't even know it. So I cannot stress the importance around doing the work when it comes to sitting down, feeling your feelings, like analyzing and becoming aware of what it is you're thinking, and taking responsibility for that. Like, you can have anything. You can become anyone. Like, that's the gift you get when you set foot on this earth. Utilize it.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right.
You're getting me all hot. You're getting me all hot over here.
I love it. All right. So, I mean, I want to be really respectful of your time too. So I have just a couple more points I want to go in, is that I know that you coach leadership. I'm assuming maybe even I know you coach both, but personal leadership, which is near and dear to my heart, because we get to personally lead ourselves, right? And you also coach connection. And I want to tie in a little bit more about the work that you're doing, in case someone here is like, I need help with that. But before we go there, I want to ask you, how can we as women reconnect, like, to connect to who we are. Like as a connection coach, it's like I'm hearing in my mind, I'm hearing the languages we use, and like the language we use when we talk to ourselves and people and all these things. But like, what is a tangible, like I can hold it and put into action right now to grow in my connection to myself and or the people in my life?
The first thing that pops in my head is like a gratitude and a wins journal. So gratitude is what creates and will force positive attitude. It's really hard to be in a contractive, pissed off state when you're focusing on what is well in your life, your relationship. So there's two things actually that I'm going to go through. First is the gratitude win journal. I don't just want you to write like what's going well. I want you to, when you wake up, write 3 things you're grateful for and 3 things that's going to make your day valuable to you with intention. Like not what you need to do, but like if I was forcing you to do something valuable and purposeful in your day, what would those 3 things be? And then leave it at your bed. And then when you get into bed, write down your 3 wins with the one emotion that you felt, or mindset, emotion or mindset that you felt the majority of the day. So again, you're in your bed, you're writing down your 3 badass moments, which is awesome. But then do a little recall of like, how did I feel today? Or where was my mindset? Was I stagnant? Was I happy? Was I like inward? So that's one thing. But then also, in order to create connection, we have to start talking to people about connection. So if you have a partner, if you have a child, the roses and thorns exercise. If you're at a table with your kids, the rose is, I guess you can do it both ways, but the rose is what was the best part about your day that like you loved. The thorn was what was not the best. What do you wish or could you do without that didn't happen? So that's one thing to like start getting people articulating how it is they're feeling and thinking. When it comes to partnerships and love and relationships, the rose is what did I do that contributed to you feeling loved, validated, supported, and important? And then the thorn is how did I withdraw love? How did I make you feel disrespected, invalidated, all of that? Because again, if we're not aware of these things and we're not expressing these things, how are we supposed to create connection?
Yeah. Wow. And I could really see the power of doing those 2 exercises. The first one, when you said, you know, 3 ways or 3, you're going to value you. I like got goosebumps and chills because we don't often value ourselves as women. I know that, like, I know I'm not the only one.
No.
We don't value ourselves. And I love how that exercise, the intention from the day that I do get to value me today. I love that. And then the roses and thorns, I could see consistently doing that. What a powerful way to build love and connection with the people in your life. Like,
and it holds responsibility. Like when my partner tells me the things I like, the 1 or 2 things I did that like took away, I love it because it's a way of her honoring like herself and her experience. And like same thing for me, when I like whip my thorns out, I feel good. And like it also feels really good to know and be validated that you are doing things that make your kid. I mean, we do it with our 7-year-old too. Like, I want to know, how am I making you feel loved, little guy? Like, how did you feel loved by me today? When did you not? Like,
yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, I'm committing. I'm committed.
good.
I'm committing to do that as well. All right. Well, I am really just so thankful of your time today, and just pouring in and serving us, and helping us to really have these tips tangible that we can put into action today to grow in connection, and to grow in who we are. So I just want to highlight again for the ladies that are listening that you are a life leadership and connection coach. This is the work you do. You've just poured into us. I'm sure even just like the tip of the iceberg of the work that you do personally, probably one-on-one and maybe even in group settings with women. How can we, the listeners, come back to you? How can we get in touch with you if we're looking to develop that deeper relationship with ourselves and lead ourselves and have connection? Maybe highlight just one more time a little bit about what you do, just in like, this is what I do, and then how can we get with you?
Yeah. So again, private practice is all around helping you reconnect and re-identify with who you truly are. Like, who are you versus who do you think you need to be? So it's really about bringing that flower of human being to life versus human doing. So we get you real clear on that so you can live your authentic life with authenticity, lead with intention, and love with impact, most importantly. I have one-on-one small group settings for that. And then if you're wanting to create a business, a coach becoming a coach, I have a mentorship program that I also help through business strategy and mindset beliefs and those sorts of struggles. On my free time, I like being outside. So you'll find me in nature. And then where to find me digitally is I'm everywhere. I like to be on all platforms. I am my brand. So Alyssa Pajoli on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And then my website is alyssapajoli.com.
Awesome.
I keep it simple.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So much love to you. And I have no doubt that those who are listening right now to this are really thanking you from their heart. This was so incredibly powerful. I know I've gotten my own nuggets and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here.